someone quoted Henry Ford saying when people were trying to make a faster horse, no one was thinking about building the car. And I had this moment of like, oh, I'm doing that. So me, Josh and Rick put our heads together and went, points aren't it anymore, we're going to do cash.
Now there's a way to get paid just for driving around.
It's the new app putting cash into your pockets.
So when you're driving now, you are unlocking cents and dollars for every drive that you do.
Blake Robinson is the co-founder and managing director of MyDriveHero, Australia's #1 safe driving app.
It'll automatically record all your trips, and from there you'll get a safety score. Depending on that safety score, will determine how much cash you unlocked for that specific trip.
June, come into July, we've essentially almost done a full reset. MyDriveHero 1 and 2, practically stripped, and brand new automatic recording, brand new UI, brand new UX, cash, automation.
Was there fear around this?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Their mission is to pioneer a reduction in road incidents across the globe while putting cash back in the pockets of everyday drivers.
How much time do you need to invest in the idea before you hand it over to a development company?
You are going to burn a bucket load of cash on shit you did wrong. Just get comfortable with it. Like, you will make mistakes.
Get happy lighting money on fire.
Yes.
I would like to welcome my friend back to the podcast, Blake.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me again.
Welcome back, man. Last time you were on here, we were in the corner in the old set and everything was painted orange. But yeah, welcome back, man. It's good to have you.
Mate, this is impressive. What an upgrade. Incredible. And the journey, you guys have had some epic guests, so I'm humbled to be here.
Thank you, man. Yeah, we've both been on some pretty outlandish journeys in the last few years. And I think just for the viewers that are not familiar with MyDriveHero, just a bit of a snapshot of like what it is and how people are getting benefits from this. And then I'd like to, I guess, spend a bit of today's episode diving into like your experience producing an app. And for those listening, that are potentially considering building one, what should they expect? What should they look for and so on? But yeah, just a quick snapshot of what MyDriveHero is.
We pay people cash to drive safer. So two biggest killers on the road are speeding and distraction. Distraction being texting and driving. Unfortunately, a lot of people doing it. And what we do is we essentially track that when you're driving. We record every trip, we package it up, and then we pay you cash for the safer that you drive in those two metrics. So essentially, if you're speeding, you're going to get less cash. If you're texting and driving, you're going to get a very little amount of cash. But if you don't touch your phone and if you don't speed, you're going to unlock the 100% maximum every single drive that you do.
And you make it sound so simple, but like that also sounds extremely complicated from a technological perspective. How does the phone track whether you're doing that or not, whether you're driving safe or not? Is it plugging into, I would imagine, GPS coordinates, speed of movement, things of that nature?
Spot on, GPS coordinates. So we essentially receive those data packets. The data packets get sent to and from the server, and we'll know the speed of every road from our data provider. We know this change in every speed of every road, and then your phone is a GPS itself. So when you're moving, if you're doing 67 in a 60 zone, we are right now essentially deducting your score for that speeding error.
And then as people accumulate points for driving safely, they can redeem them with partnerships. So
that's what it used to be.
Okay, that's changed.
Yeah, so this is, I think, something really exciting we can talk about today. We were points up until July. Early last year, we realized it wasn't 100% getting to the level we wanted it to. And essentially I took myself away to Bali, had a 7-day retreat on reimagining the business. I heard a TikTok podcast snippet where someone quoted Henry Ford saying when people were trying to make a faster horse, no one was thinking about building the car. And I had this moment of like, oh, I'm doing that. I'm trying to make a fast horse instead of the car. So me, Josh and Rick put our heads together and went, points aren't it anymore, we're going to do cash.
What do you mean by that?
So when you're driving now, you are unlocking cents and dollars for every drive that you do. And
so you're literally earning money and getting paid directly, kind of like you would as if you were driving for Uber or something of that nature.
Yep, spot on. Just what we do is we have a MyDriveHero exclusive cash card, and we have about 140 retailers: Coles, Woolies, Ampol, BP, Bunnings, Kmart, Catch, Play Store, iTunes.
So rather than redeeming through the supplier or the partner, they get a card that they can use anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere.
With partnerships.
Yeah, and it just gets sent directly to them. So their wallet's accumulating, and in that wallet, you just click withdraw when you get to the level that you want to withdraw, and bang, it just arrives.
So it transfers the money from the app to the card.
Yep.
That's fascinating. So when you decided that we're building a horse here, we're trying to make a horse faster rather than going and building the, like, what was the moment of epiphany? What made you realize this? Because a lot of people in business, when they're building a business, you know, we get so caught in the inertia of our business growing and scaling. I've been sucked into this loophole where it's just like week to week, cash check to cash check, client to client. You just get stuck in a rhythm. How did you snap out of it and go, hang on a second, we're doing things wrong here? Even though it sounded like you guys were doing great, you were raising capital, the business is growing. Why the sudden change?
A great question. You said something to me when we did our rebrand 2 years ago. Founders get in the way of themselves, and it's stuck with me. Like that has been something I always think about. Am I getting in the way of myself? Is my arrogance, Josh is the same, Rick's the same. Are we being too arrogant thinking what we built is like it? Where we're always looking to go, is it right? How can we do better? We've got the data there. But this is going to sound funny. We were already thinking about that quote, but then I went to Singapore and I watched a movie called Moneyball. Have you seen Moneyball?
That's a brilliant movie. Yeah.
And it was the same concept, you know. Obviously Brad Pitt's trying to get people to base more rather than getting all the home run hitters in. And it was just, again, he went down the car route, not the horse route. And that was like the last straw that broke the camel's back, that we're doing this.
Because he faced so much friction, like in that movie. I guess the premise of that movie with Moneyball is Brad Pitt is reinventing how to look at the stats in the game. And everyone's like, that's not how we've done it before. There's always been a rinse repeat criteria that we do. Why change it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Hitters, like trying to get all the big names.
Were you watching Moneyball when you thought this?
I was watching the movie, like it came on and I was watching it and I went, is this like meant to be? Is there a reason why I'm watching this? And I think that was the first time I ever watched that movie, and like the timing of it. And then I think one of the biggest things being a founder and running a business is your gut instinct. You have to trust it. Every time I've gone against it, it's been wrong. Every time I've gone with it, I'd say 99% of the time it's been right. And straight there and then I remember messaging Rick and Josh and I was like, we are going to change this whole mechanism. We are going to change it from back when we were on the potty last here, we were manual recording app. We're now fully automatic now. So it does it completely in the background for you. It's not press start, press stop, convert to points. It's fully automatic, packages it up for you, bang, check how much cash you got. And we also now show you where your errors are too on the map. Right there, you can click on it and it will say you were doing 74 and a 70, or you were doing 88 and a 60, you were doing 50 and a 40 zone. Like you can go back and actually see, why did I lose money on that trip?
Right.
And then instead of, again, giving that fine, slapping people on the wrist, it's just, this is why you didn't get as much. Next time, let's not do 40 in that. Let's not do 50 in that 40.
So giving people more data points of when and where they are driving safe. Now, did that lead to you guys seeing trends where, and I guess as a brand, we talked about this going back almost 2 years ago, which is you don't want the brand to punish people or hurt people. And in most cases, when we're looking at safe driving, the other organizations, charities, fundraisers, what have you around safe driving, it's usually negative. Like if you do this, people will die. If you don't break in time, kids die. Like it's gruesome, it's dark. You wanted to always tilt it toward it's pure dopamine, optimism, happiness. And you believe that was a better route to get the actual result versus trying to punish people.
100%. There's enough of those signs. You see the TEC signs. It's like got the police gun on the big billboard. We're going to catch you. In trouble. And I just feel like with the demographic change too, as we have the millennials and Zs coming up, they do not like being told what to do.
Nope.
So it's like, why would I follow that suit of punish, punish, punish? So no matter what, in the MyDriveHero app, you will at least get 1 cent for a trip. Granted, you might miss out on a whole dollar, but you'll still at least get something for your participation to actually committing to trying to be better. And then that's what I said last time on the podcast is I'm not treating every person like they have to be Mr. or Mrs. Passionate, safety, everything about safety. If they're trying to just make money and save money and earn money through the app, we're going to get the result anyway because they're the ones that are going to miss out when they drive dangerously, when they go back and see. So in the app, you'll notice we have your potential cash and how much you've actually earned. So you can always see side by side what you would be on if you were following the rules.
Right, okay.
So it's kind of that constant like.
It's gamified. You're like, oh, I want that cash.
I could have earned $180 right now, but I've only earned 70.
Yeah.
Wow, I've left that much money on the table for my dangerous driving. Let's not leave it on the table because it's free and it could be mine. So we're just trying to flip that narrative, and we're seeing a huge intake.
Which I find interesting because if you go into the psychology of branding, it's, people want to feel good. They inherently don't want to feel bad.
Yeah.
And making people feel bad is not a great way to motivate people to continue to do something.
Yeah.
So by creating this, I guess, reward for people, you're incentivizing them to do the thing that they should be doing, even though they don't prioritize that as much as they might prioritize their grocery bill.
Yeah, 100%. I think we're like, a lot of people are in a rush. Like a lot of people feel like they're running late or they're behind something in life, and feel like when you
which justifies I'm going to go an extra 5.
Yeah.
I've done it. I'm running late. It's just an extra 5.
Save that 10 seconds. Where if you're an individual and that money could be very helpful for you, it's like, well, would I rather arrive 20 seconds slower but have an extra couple of bucks every single time I do that? Or do I want to rush right now? Oh, damn it, I've missed all that money. All that money's been left at the table spewing.
Does it calculate over time, like over a longer period? You're like, over the last year, you could have made an extra 10 grand, but you didn't.
Yeah, not specifically in time. That's probably going to come. Like I said, it was July 15th, we brought this new model out. So what feels like ages to us, it's actually still quite, it's been quick. Like it wasn't that long ago that we launched it. So we will gamify that, have that a lot more in your face. You missed out on this, but you can always go to the summary page of the app, and right there, it says how much you've got compared to how much you could have got. And every single trip has essentially a cash earned and a potential cash odometer. And on that odometer, you see how much you got. Is it full? Is it half? Is it almost empty? And you get that.
So
feeling.
exciting.
You get that feeling of, damn, I left that money on the table.
Yeah. So just to, I guess, go back for a moment, like what inspired you guys to start MyDriveHero, and what was the predominant problem back then that you were trying to solve?
Yeah.
And now has that changed?
No, it definitely hasn't changed. But the straw that broke the camel's back, the thing that created the idea was my business partner and founder, Rick Markham. Unfortunately, a workplace accident. A young lady drove under a 100-ton mining truck on her phone, texting and driving. The driver said the last thing he saw was the phone light in the ute. And there are videos on YouTube of, if you have a look at a mining truck go over a car, watch it, and you'll see how serious it is. And he was, I got to do something about this, and then went on the journey, and we ended up meeting on that journey and turned that vision into a reality. So it's to save lives. Is it the goal right now? 100%. Will it always be the goal? 100%. Even when we raise capital, we bring on partners, we bring on employees, advisors. If they don't share that same value, plain and simply, fuck off. I'm going to say it like that.
Yeah.
We are not going to cut corners and bring on corporate greedy people that go, let's make more money and don't worry about the lives. No way. The goal is lives to be saved, and that will never change, not in this business.
How do you make sure that if someone is investing in a company like this, and I understand that as it goes with capitalism or investors, they want to put $1 in and get $2 out.
Yeah.
How do you prevent that rhetoric taking place as you guys are raising capital? How do you make sure we stick to the values and not detract from that?
Yeah, I think when you've been around people your whole life and you can read red flags quite easily, it does make that a lot easier. But we have put structures in place where if people are coming on and investing, then that's going to help us grow the business. If they have no interest in the strategy behind it, or they're not really, I guess, into it, we'll do a different share class, which would mean that they don't have certain voting rights. They can't come in the way of the speed of the company. They can't come in the way of the strategy of the company. So if people don't understand, when you're raising capital, there's about 20 different share classes. So you don't have to stick to ordinary. You can go down the list. There's plenty you can choose from. So we've done that. If there was ever someone not from this world, not really into it, but we needed the capital to continue growing, we make sure that it can't be impacted. The decision-making can't be impacted. The pace of decision-making.
How do you vet a red flag out with an investor when you're sitting in front of them?
To be honest, it's a great question. Rick and Josh always just say to me, do you have red flag or green flag? And I don't know what it is. An employee of ours was, I wish I knew the book, was reading a specific book around your gut instinct and how it's lived for so much longer than you have. And some people just straight away just no. I would prefer just to walk away from a deal if I get any weird feeling. And it might be wrong, I might be wrong, but I just truly go off my gut for those things. And we just take ages. We just meet with people. We go out, have lunch with them, get to know them, and we'll fill it out that way.
Yeah, I guess people can, showcase a bit of a mask for a short interaction. I don't know who said this, but I was reading somewhere that you'll know the quality of the person by who's around them. Yep. So if you put yourself in an environment where you can see the investor around their standard circle or the people that they typically hang out with, you can typically judge that person by how they interact with people they already know.
Yeah, 100%. Richard Branson does this great thing I watched on his masterclass, and me, Rick and Josh have spoken about implementing this, where he will take someone out for lunch, but he will set up that the waiter or waitress will make a heap of mistakes, will like spill stuff, just like stuff up, and see how he treats that waiter or waitress.
Right.
And if he's treating that waiter or waitress any less than how he's treating Richard, straight away it's a no.
Why do you think that is?
It's genius, because like 100%. I was chatting to my fiance about this. Like, there are people out there that literally will treat someone in that role less than them or a colleague. It's like, straight away, I know everything I need to know about that person. I'm not going anywhere near them. I don't know why, because I'll never be like that. So
that's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah.
To like stage a actor to screw up as a waitress or
genius.
What have you, just to figure someone out.
How cool. It was on his masterclass, and I was like, that's what you want for like your executive team, for like people that are going to be making big decisions. Like, people can talk one thing, but how do they act?
Well, I think if a human's response is to put people into different brackets and treat them differently depending on their position or status, then that says a lot about someone. It's like, I'll treat you based on how I perceive you versus just as a fellow human being.
Big time. The person making your Domino's pizza on a Friday is equal to you because you want that pizza.
That
so
person,
like, why are they?
in my book, said a bit more of a legend than Baby Mose. So I guess for yourself, like, how do you define success?
That is a good question. Success is an interesting term because it's like, what are we talking about? We're talking about your success in your business. Yeah. I don't think you ever know if you've reached success until the day that you die. And I've always said, I've always strived to be the person that when I die, all my mates say he was the most loyal friend. And I think that's mine.
That's beautiful, man. Yeah. And do you think that if you were to say in business, how would you define success in business?
Your team. I think if your team says the same about you, no matter how many levels you've jumped, if you're still prioritizing them over the money, the fame, all of that jazz, I would say that's success. Because I worked in finance earlier in my career, and I've been surrounded by some wealthy individuals, and sometimes you look in their eyes and they're dead because all they've prioritized was the money, was the number in the bank, and not the people. They've burned a lot along the way, and you can see it. You can see the souls taken out of their eyes. And that is something I'd never want to be. So for me, I'd say success is people around me and how much I built them up. Like Josh as an example, like I posted on my LinkedIn, that was my biggest, what I would call my success last year, as well as his, my most proud moment when he stepped up and went on Sunrise on like the last week of the year and nailed it. And like for him to believe in himself that much and to know I had a hand in that, like that's success. Because that shit stays forever. So yeah.
Yeah, going on television can be daunting, especially if you're not fully media trained and you're getting thrown in the deep end. And we're talking a bit about this before, I guess we started recording today, which your first live interview on television, you had a journalist that was a bit of a bulldog and was trying to get a rise out of you. Yeah. And you were explaining to me that, you had her in an earpiece, she was turned all the way down and you're looking at yourself in a camera, so it didn't bother you that much.
Yeah. To be honest, I didn't even truly know it was going on at the time that aggressive. And it wasn't until after it, I watched it back and had all these messages on LinkedIn, like personal texts going, whoa, they were going at you so hard and well done. You just weathered that storm. But yeah, probably thankful that the earpiece was turned down a bit and I was just making sure I was in the center of the screen.
Like, damn, well, look good. Like what a great interview.
You don't know what to do in that first instant. So you walk into the studio and you have no idea like what the setup's going to be like. What does it look like? It's a room, cameras everywhere, big screen behind you, and you're just getting counted. Someone's counting you down. You're live in 3 minutes. You're live in 1. Go.
And Josh went on Sunrise because you had, I guess, 2 meetings that were near the same. You were going to drive from one location to the next. They moved it to the same time, so then he was kind of forced to get on there, and he crushed it.
Yeah, he did. He was like, I'll do it. I'll put my hand up. I'll go in and Yeah, he went into studio in Sydney and absolutely nailed it.
Okay, well, shifting gears here a little bit, I want to come back to apps because I think that there's a conversation in business in general, and I've been in a lot of workshops with clients, and they throw out the idea of an app of like, we're going to build this business and we'll just throw an app in there.
Yeah.
And usually I pump the brakes in these strategic workshops because I'm like, hang on a second, you can't just throw an app in the mix here. Like, what do you mean? Well, we're just going to have an app for this feature for our business. And I'm like, no, apps are famous money pits. And unless you really want to develop a key function that solves a huge problem, like don't even go near it. Just have a manual procedure or something else. You're going to invest a lot less. But what's your opinion of apps? Just generally speaking, do you think that, there are some precautionary measures that people should take before they dive in?
Before they start building one, absolutely. Get a bucket load of capital for one. But I reckon if you try web, if you can do your project on web first, just to see if it sticks, you are going to save tens, 50s, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you can do it on web, there's some businesses that can't, like us. We're GPS based, we're location based. Like, you can't really do it on web. It wouldn't quite work.
How would you differentiate like web for a function for a business versus an app? Like, what is the key difference? How do we delineate, and how do we know which one we should go with?
Well, if you can do it on web, do it on web. Like, if you can do anything on your website, get a website builder to build it, and you can have a function in there if you're trialing a payment platform or whatever your app is, or web or project is. But for us, we had to be an app. There's no
had to be mobile centric. It had to plug into pay packets. Different data packets.
Yeah, 100%.
It had to synchronize with the GPS and all the rest of it, which is kind of hard to do web based.
Couldn't do it web, and you also to have it. You go to the website and you'd have to try and redeem and do it all through there. It'd just be really, really prickly. So we had to go app. Looking back on it, there would be many precautions I could have taken to save hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
But if you play that game in business, it's never gonna end. What if I just did this?
Because I guess when you look at a website, like it's a portal with code and design, whereas an app, you're engineering software. Yeah. And there's a lot more moving parts, and you're also then having to plug that into either Apple or Android, and then you have to do updates when there's bugs, and then you have to engineer it to fit different devices that are either out of date or what have you. So there's just so many more layers of complexity to develop an app.
And there's so many things that will come in the way of your business that you have no control over. So as an example, we're having an issue at the minute with Samsungs. So Samsung did their most recent update about 2 months ago. And if you go online and you just write Samsung new update, you'll see people like, it's killed my phone, it's turning my apps off, nothing's working. I have a user who thought our app was broken. And we just gave her a call, we were helping her out. And we're like, are you ever driving and your Spotify just turns off? Yeah, that happens all the time. And we go, yeah, it's your Samsung. And there's a particular website.
Yeah, it's not our fault, it's your fault.
Like it's if it's happening to Spotify, a monster company, this is why ours is happening too. But their update is essentially, because an Android's got so many different settings in their device settings, it just turns the app off. So all of a sudden we'll be recording someone's drive and the phone will just go, no, we're not recording anymore. And then they come and blame us, and it's like, it's the phone. So if you're going to build an app, you've got to take that into account as well. Like, do you want an Android? Because like, if I could go back now in just Australia from the start, would I just do Apple and not Android? I think I would.
Really?
Yeah, I think I would. But the only problem with that is we want to take this into many other countries where the Android is like 90+% of the population.
So from your perspective, like what is the key difference between working with Android and working with Apple? Because I guess if people are deciding, I want to go with both, I want to prioritize this one or that one, like what's the portion of the market, and like how do they prioritize, or how do you guys see the difference?
Yeah. So right now, the last time I checked, I think 57% of Australia were Android, the remaining in Apple. The difference being, you've got iPhones, right? That's it. But with Android, you've got Oppos you can grab for like $250.
Yeah, you got Huawei, Samsung
Huawei's for $300. Then you've got, you might have more premium phones, $1,000, $1,500. So the technology in the cheaper phone is more often than not going to be far less advanced than an iPhone.
So there's thousands of variables with the hardware.
There are thousands of Androids. Like if you go on and look how many there are, it's like you got to then get your app right for everyone. Granted, the big chunk is Samsung and Google Pixel, your Galaxies and your Pixels, but even they have their own problems in them. So if I was to go back in just Australia alone, look at the outlay that Android has cost, the amount of hours that our development team have spent trying to find certain undiscoverable bugs and problems in Android. If I looked at the outlay spend compared to iOS on that and how much money we could have used to invest in other things, I would probably go back and go no Droid, Apple, until we make everything stick. And once you then built out your team, you know, your model's working fine, it's profiting, then, all right, let's bring on an Android-specific team.
Yeah, so you would iron out the kinks on a platform that you could predict and have a bit less of a up and down roller coaster of problems, and let's just smooth it out here and then translate that across.
Yeah, big time. Like that's probably the only thing I would say if I could go back in time and really pick one thing with the app, it would just be let's just keep it on Apple because it's just far more consistent. We don't really see any of our Apple users having any problems. It's always Android.
Yeah. What do you think are some of the misconceptions about building an app in the first place that most people tend to have and then realize when they're too far in?
Doing too much, I think, and we did it. I think people think in an app you've got to have all of this engagement and all of these things to keep people in there, but actually simplicity is key. And we learned that from a really raw, brutal review. And it was one of the key elements to why we changed to MyDriveHero 3.0. It was about that long. It took up like 2 pages. I can see what they're trying to do here. It's a great idea. They're trying too much. I'm lost in what they're doing here. It's over gamified. It's over complex and just, again, ripped us to shreds.
Can you give me an example of how you were doing too much?
Yeah. So if you look at MyDriveHero 1 to MyDriveHero 2 to MyDriveHero 3, MyDriveHero 2, we attempted extreme gamification when really all we needed was cache and automation. We didn't know that at the time. Well,
Yeah.
Not that we didn't know that. It just, we thought what we had was good enough. And we tried leaderboards. We tried doing giveaways with your points as well as getting vouchers and discounts. And there were just so many different places you go on the app. There was a news section, and in that news section was the leaderboard as well. And then we had a leaderboard on the homepage. We had a reward ad module, which we used to monetize the app and people could earn more points. So there were all these things, but people then were like, well, what is the main purpose of this app? No, like, what is it? What's the start button? I don't get what the start and stop button is. People getting lost. And yeah, it was a hard 6 months of like, we thought this was going to be the thing that made it stick, and it wasn't. And me and Josh were just talking about this over the break. Our last Christmas break, I don't think we moved from our laptop for the whole time. Like Christmas Day, like every day we were there going, why is this not sticking like we thought it was? And it had just been built. And then we eventually ironed out some kinks, and then that's when we went, all right, to get to the next level, we got to go cache and we got to go automation. But yeah, misconceptions, I think people try and do way too much.
Too many features, too many functions. Was this adding weight from the software? Was this adding weight from management? Like, where were the problems popping up?
No, the problems are popping up in people, the drop-off, the user drop-off.
So if the app is too complicated or isn't quite clear as what its key function is, don't want to use it.
Gone. Like, just the drop-off rate was like, wow, I thought we were going to have a huge uptake. And it was just people are getting confused. We were getting messages from our really loyal users going, hey guys, like it's all becoming a bit too confusing. And it was really like disheartening to see. But you got 2 options. You either go, well, how do we lift it? Or do we sit here and try and make it work? So we ironed out a few kinks there, stripped it back a bit. But again, once we stripped it back and we saw it did take off a bit, it was again, we weren't getting that sticking rate we wanted. We just knew like it wasn't there. And then that's when that TikTok podcast popped up and the Moneyball, and it was like,
Brad Pitt inspired you.
You know, yeah, Brad Pitt, let's go, Moneyball. And again, I always think about the thing you said to me is founders get in their way.
They do, man.
Like, let's step out of body for a second and go, okay, we built something pretty cool here, but maybe the whole thing's wrong. Maybe that everything is completely wrong. Let's strip this back to its core.
It happens so often, and you know, it's so easy to do. Like, you're running a company and you can justify that, you know what you're doing. You've been doing it longer than anyone else. Like, you know, the customer doesn't know enough or what have you. And I think that, you know, one of the ways that businesses or business owners tend to get in their own way is I think they try to grow too much. Yep. And there's this really cool philosophy that I've been playing with, and you know, it shows up in Buddhism, it shows up in Christianity, it shows up in a bunch of different religions. But in Buddhism in particular, they talk about how when you're looking at life or reality, there's only really 3 categories you can put things in. Either it's growing, it's being maintained, or it's being destroyed.
Wow.
And I've been applying this to business because when I talk to a lot of business owners, they're constantly like, I'm doing this and this and this, and they're almost proud of how many things are on their to-do list.
Yeah.
And when you simply just go, well, how many of these are actually substantially valuable? And what do we just need to destroy? And then what do we need to put into maintenance mode? And they're like, no, it's all in growth mode. And I'm like, okay, but like, how can you possibly prioritize 20 things in growth mode at the same time? Let's demote a few of them to just purely maintenance. We'll come back to them later. It doesn't mean we're not going to grow them. It just means we're putting them into autopilot as best we can, delegate it to someone else, or find another way to kind of demote it. What things can we destroy here that are just not helping your business? And then let's pick 3 to 5 things to focus on growth, not 20.
Yeah.
And this is usually a hard conversation for people, but then when it sinks in, they're like, yeah, this is a lot better. You know, I can just do 5 things really well, put these 10 things in the background and autopilot and destroy these 5 things.
How are you finding it?
I've been doing it myself this past year, and even, you know, the team behind here on the podcast. I think last year I was doing too much. You know, we did the book, we did the podcast, we're traveling international. I was doing keynotes, we're doing events, we're doing boot camps, we're doing webinars, we're doing interviews, running a company. It was so much. And I think that it was all great. Nothing was bad. It's just, you know, where are we going to focus on growth?
And like, that's impossible to sustain.
It's not sustainable. And then like, I'm a dad, I'm a partner, and I want to have a life and friendships and all the rest of it. It's just, and I think that, you know, we can get caught in this inertia that I'm not a successful business owner if I'm not doing an ice bath at 5 a.m. and then, you know, doing this like extreme regiment for success. And I think every person's different, but coming back to the theology of like, hey, we got to destroy some stuff. We got to crack a few eggs and we're going to put a few things in the shelf for now. And let's just focus on what's important.
Yeah. I think we did something very similar, not based on that philosophy. And it's the best thing we ever did. We go, we're just going to focus on, we are the only business to pay out cash. We are the only app right now tracking your safety. And that's our thing. Bang, nothing else.
And it
matters.
sounds like, well, that's not enough. So then we over embellish, right? But you're saying by radically simplifying the key problem you solve for, and therefore what is the benefit? It's like, well, the key problem is you can, I guess from the viewer's perspective, I drive and make money.
Yep.
That's maybe, would you say in their world, that's the problem?
That's it. I think the problem right now is money. Well, it is. The problem's money. So we went, how do we grow our business by tackling that problem? And by tackling that problem, we tackle the road safety problem as well. Just as a byproduct, that's our focus. The business owners, advisors, staff, we want death toll down. People driving on the road, they might not care about that, but what do they need? And that's what I'm going to give you, because then I'm going to get what I want.
Which is a great lesson in business, because at the end of the day, the market don't care about you and your business, your interests, your mission. What's in it for them?
100%.
And for the drivers in using this app, it's like, hey, I want cash for what I'm already doing. That's a problem they have. So if you own that problem, great. Then just simplify how we deliver that.
The one thing I'm learning on this journey too is how angry the world is at businesses. Like we give out cash, right? We have it's a free option. You can have a free account. And if you want the paid account, cool, there's less ads. It's a less friction experience. But if you don't want to pay, that's fine. You don't have the money to pay, that's fine. We'll still pay you cash anyway. And the amount of aggressive emails we get going, I didn't speed here, fuck you, you're wrong. I'm going to take you to the ACCC and get my $1 back for that trip. Like the amount we get. And I know it's not us that they're angry at. They're angry at business as a whole. Our biggest grocery companies are making billions and these people can't afford bread. The everyday Australian can't afford bread. I come from a very, very humble family. I know what it's like. These massive banks are making billions a quarter and people are, we're now upping the fees to hold money in your account, but we made billions and you're struggling to feed your family. I understand why they're angry. I get it. And that's why we put so much focus into I always say to my staff, remember someone could have had a really bad day. You don't know what they're going through. Let's not fire back with any fire. Let's break them down and then you'll have a community for life. I remember I taught Josh this at the start and Josh is like, every time now he's like, yes, I got a really angry one. And he's like, by the end of it, they're going to love me. And then they end up getting reviews. I spoke to Josh, this is so great. I actually realized I was wrong here, but then we might have been at fault. There might have been a road that was wrong. So we go in and we say, hey, thanks for telling us. We'll now send that to our provider. That'll get updated in 30 days. That road will now be correct for everyone because it got changed for whatever reason. Now everyone's going to get paid accurately. Are you glad you helped? Oh, yeah, I'm glad. Bang, all of a sudden. The ones that are the most angry will be your biggest lovers once you break them down. But it is sad to see. It's actually sad to go, what are you going through that you're that angry that you're taking that time out of your day to blast a company that's actually giving you money, not taking it?
Would you say that people tend to collect frustration from a multitude of experiences and then they just at some point lash out at whoever's the person that's ticked him off at that moment, similar to Richard Branson interviewing someone at the cafe and the waitress did the wrong thing, spilled the water. And what do you think it is? Do you think it's inflation? Do you think it's the economy, the politics? What's getting people so fired up?
I think case by case basis, you're always going to find different things. But I think more so than ever right now, businesses need to be just a human being. You need to rip away that corporate sheath. You need to just be a person. You just need to be a genuine face. Because I have noticed that when Josh and I got a little bit more in front of the business and got us out there doing videos, we did see a bit of a drop in hastiness from our community. And they're just actually just genuine people. We still obviously need to get far more deeper in the personal branding. And I think we need to strip back business content's dead, right? You'd know that better than anyone. Just posting cool designed images and just content like that. We need to strip it back to the person because I think that will calm people down because these big companies that are making billions, they're almost like robots running those companies. You see them in these meetings. They're defensive. They can't answer why they're making so much profit when they don't need to make as much. But we all know the shareholders sitting behind there, they want their payouts. Guess what? The everyday person's got to pay for that. So
yeah, because you see politicians on television or on news or even in podcasts, and it's like they're an NPC in a video game.
Yep.
They have preset dialogue sequences that they just go to, and doesn't matter what question you throw at them, they got 3 responses. Yep. I think people are tired of this incongruent response or rhetoric we see from public figures, and I think, from my experience, you look at a company and there's classical tropes where it's all they care about is making profit. They're in it for themselves. They don't care about the consumer. And for those listening abroad, we have a bit of an issue here in Australia where we have predominantly 2 leading, whole food supermarkets that are, essentially at war with each other, but it definitely seems like they work with each other to maximize profit. And when you're paying $9.85 for milk, you're starting to get a little pissed off at corporations.
Sure. For sure. You think about the average income earning family, they might have 3 kids. That's got to be so tough.
Yeah.
There's
if I'm getting paid $28 an hour, hypothetically, for a medium job here in Australia, and it's half of that hour is just a bottle of milk.
Yeah.
It's not worth the hour.
It's not. So no wonder why they're angry.
Unless you love your coffee, but
yeah. There's a TikTok I see, and he's done it in a very, very intelligent way. He shows on a tracker on his Chrome the price increase and decrease of every product online on Coles and Woolies.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it'll be on sale 50% off, and then he'll go, I'm not not saying you're doing this, but just having a look, it was $9 last week, $4.50 this week. The week before that was $9, then it was $4.50, then $9, then $4.50. And he goes, so someone could say it's not actually 50% off because this is just what happens every week. And then he goes to Woolies and it's like opposite. So when you say like working together, you start to go,
I love that people are like creating technology to like track stuff and call people out on things. I think that's fascinating. So if someone's considering, hey, you know, they're in a workshop with me and they're like, man, let's do an app for this feature that we want. You're saying for the most part, like definitely destroy that idea unless you're very serious about solving a key function for your business. For those that have an idea for an app or are building an app as a key function of their business, a few things you mentioned, one which is like, you know, try to simplify it, own a problem, keep it simplistic. What are some other considerations that you should think about? Like if there's a laundry list of like, this is what you're going to expect if you're building an app, these are the 10 things that you should really put your energy into.
You need the money there and have more than you expect.
What would be that number?
Well, it depends on the specific.
If we just be an average and we're standardizing this with let's just say it's a tech company that the app is the key function of how they want to hold their
minimum
business.
2 mil.
Really?
A minimum 2 mil.
2 million.
Be prepared to spend over the next 36 months comfortably over 2 million.
Why is it 2 million?
Because developers cost quite a lot of money. Staff cost a lot of money. When you monetize through Apple, they're charging you 30% on subscriptions. When you're monetizing through Google Play Store, they're between 15 and 27%. So 30% of your equity just working with Apple gone. So have you ever used Whoop before? Have you ever seen? Yeah. So you know how their subscription is really like, there's quite a lot of friction in it for how big they are, but they put it through their website so then they don't pay any fees to the app stores. While granted, I understand their product's a bit different. They can get away with that. If we were to do something like that, our users would go, oh, well, it was a double click. Now it's not a double click. I've got to go to this website, make an account. Like too much friction. Too much friction. Move on. So straight away, you got to factor that into your revenue is, oh, cool, I've done 1 million in subs, but Apple and Google have taken 30% of that. So huge chunk gone. So if you did 1 million revenue, that's 300,000 that goes to Apple. Gone. And then you got your taxes and everything on that, obviously depending if you're profiting or not. But bang, 30% gone, 300 grand gone from your in-app subscriptions. Now, if you're advertising, if you're using any sort of programmatic advertisers, whether it be AdMob, Unity, all of the main platforms, you've probably got a 60-40 revenue share when you're kicking off. So you might be getting a $30 CPM. You're only seeing less than half of that to a little bit over half of that, depending. So there's a lot of fees that go out on these things that people don't understand. So where can people go to try to guess or gauge what the capital should be? Is there some way that people can kind of naturally track this themselves, or should they go hire an accountant? No, get good at I'd say any founder should be able to write a good business model, a good business plan, and you should be deep in that all the time. Like I'm always playing with ours, fiddling it, going, okay, if this lever gets tweaked, what happens? If I tweak this lever, what happens? 5 years, 2 years, 1 year, make a medium growth one, an aggressive growth one, a really worst case scenario one, and make sure you know, like, what are the outcomes that track. So in mine, I have a cash flow statement that mimics a bank account. So I can know, like, if I have the worst year and it's the worst, what does the bank account look like every single month? What does it start? What does it end? What does it start? What does it end? And it's like almost like it's breathing. It's like money comes in, money goes out. Money comes in, money goes out. And then if you go, all right, let's put in 700,000 in investment and let's put a worst case scenario over the next 3 years, all your revenue lines. Granted, you're going to come up with new revenue lines over the time, or some won't go to plan. But if you get that as accurate as you can think and do a worst case scenario and watch that the cells go into negative, into red, and you go, yeah, 700K might not quite cut it. Yeah. We recently did, we brought in a CFO and we started to do financial forecasting for the business. And that is an eye opener. Yeah. You can have a hunch like, we're doing really well with this particular product. The CFO is like, well, hang on a second. You crunch the numbers. You're like, actually, it's losing 30%, but this other product is gaining 50% profit, whatever. Like, I think when you're starting an app, you're saying that you should sit down and have some kind of forecast or some kind of financial model so you can crunch numbers to figure out what spits out at the end of the year. Big time. Like, if you can't do it yourself, get a fractional CFO, pay for someone's time to build your model, and then you can go through and edit it. But if you're going to be a founder, if you're going to build a business, like early on, because you don't have spare cash just to pay for a CFO. If you're not in a profit yet, CFOs aren't cheap, right? You can't just fork out startup funds for a CFO to build your model. You need to get busy and figure out how to build that thing yourself.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with going, can I have you for 1 hour, pay for a CFO for an hour, check over it, if you're really not confident with what you're doing.
Well, hell, if you're bootstrapping it, maybe ChatGPT can be like, here's a model,
exactly.
put it together this way. So one's capital. So capital can include a number of things like financial forecasting, either ChatGPTing it or getting an accountant or a fractional CFO.
Are you copying? Like, are you doing something's already done? Much easier because there's already a blueprint for it.
Right. So look out there in the market who's done this before.
Like, let's, you got Xero. If you're copying Xero, like it's all there. You know how to make that tracking financial platform. Like it already exists. So that's going to be a lot easier. But time is, I'm actually going to move capital to 2, and I'm going to put time as your biggest adversary.
So time's number 1.
Time is
capital number 2.
Yeah.
So talk about time.
When we first started this, Josh teed up a meeting with the founder of Go1, corporate training platform, VU, and he said one thing, again, something like you said, but he said it's just stuck with me. He goes, your biggest enemy is going to be time. And at the time, it just kind of...
It sounds cliche. It's like, sure,
cool. And, what else? Like, what other information?
Got anything else for me? Because that one's a basic one.
Yeah. But funny
you're like,
enough,
boring, swipe right.
But it's like the first thing I think about, like, every day is like, I've got this many hours, and like, if I don't use them wisely, then it's going to add cost. It's going to be waste of money. It's going to be like, I didn't get anywhere. I didn't learn anything new. So with app development too, you're paying by the hour most likely. So if you're running real slow, or if you're paying by the hour and you don't quite have your ducks in a row, that is going to eat that capital away real quick.
Because if you look at business, right, at the end of the day, it's really 3 things. And I've had conversations with this kind of same, I guess, perspective from many people, billionaires, millionaires, what have you, where it's like it always comes back down to time, money, people.
Yep.
So do you have the right people? Are they doing the right shit? Do you have enough money, capital, to do what you need to do? How much are you needing? How long is it going to last you? What's the impact? Do you have enough of it? Are you running short? And then the last thing is time. I think, when I go back to a book that I love, which is Cash Flow Quadrant, Robert Kiyosaki talks about, how to move money around to make money for you. But he also talks about this in some of his workshops and other books where he's like, if you take time and start to think about time as currency.
Yep.
Every hour is a time token. Where are you putting that time token per hour? And if you're only working 8 hours a day, where are you spending those time tokens? Because if you start thinking like that, you start to go, well, I put 8 hours into this. What did I get? Yeah. And if you start becoming critical with your time and you start thinking about time as an investment, like really seriously think about it as an investment, what are you getting for what you're putting your time into?
Yeah, I think with like a founder's time is you're going to have your developers who are going to go out and do the work, right? There's a good chance you're probably not a developer, right? You don't have the code.
Most people that start an app aren't a developer.
You're not, right? So how much like research have you done? How much planning have you done? How is your communication to the developers? Because if you haven't spent the time building that out, you're going to send off a brief to them and you're going to tell them to do something. They're going to come back and they've spent 100 hours on it and you're like, that's not like what I was thinking, or actually I didn't really quite go over that in my head all that much. Or like the financial model, you haven't spent 20, 30 hours on it and you go, oh, that actually didn't make money. Oh, I could have spent 100 hours on that. Like,
do you think it's because like people haven't tested the idea? Let's just say I have an idea for an app. I theorize it and I go through thought exercises and I think about it for a year. I hire an app development company for $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. I tell them what I want. They literally take me verbatim. They're engineering type people, analytical type people.
They do.
They build exactly what I asked for. And then I see it and I'm like, oh, this isn't quite working the way I'd hoped. Do you think that the time piece, how much time do you need to invest in the idea before you hand it over to a development company?
I don't know if there's ever going to be an answer for that question. Like that's a very hard.
What's the
scenario.
dangers of that? Like, explain to me,
I think you just as well have to be really prepared. You are going to burn a bucket load of cash on shit you did wrong. No, just get comfortable with it. Like, you will make mistakes.
get happy lighting money on fire.
Yes, no, get comfortable with it, because out of that, something will form. Like, you will find something.
Why is that the culture of app development?
Because it costs so much. Because like you said, a lot of founders aren't developers. You know, if you're an accountant, you start an accountancy firm, you can, if something's going wrong, you can jump in there and do the books. You can meet with a client. You can essentially swap your time for money, right? When you're building an app, that's, again, I can only truly talk from our point of view. No one's done it. No one's done a safe driving app that pays someone cash, that's fully automatic, that uses essentially YouTube's model in a way to bring it back into a gamified way that keeps you coming back. No one's done that before. How do you figure that out? You just don't fucking care about anything. You don't get scared of anything, and you just know it's going to work. I'm like, it might sound blasé, but we just, again, I'll model everything to a T quite aggressively. And if I'm comfortable that arm can make money and that idea can make money, it's just
okay. So like, explain this to me. If I'm looking at building an app, but I'm not a developer and I'm an entrepreneur and I think the idea has merit, where would you shop? Would you go to the top of town? Would you go to the bottom of town? Like, what's the best protocol? What should I stay away from? And where should I be careful?
Yeah, that's a great question. Top of town. The bigger the company, the more headcount they have, the more bums that are on seats that you're essentially going to be paying for, and it's going to be factored into your cost. They move a lot slower as well, from what I've found from experience. If you go to that, I wouldn't say like absolute bottom of town, but maybe one rung up, team of 2, team of 3, team of 4, maximum team of 6, they've got that passion where they want to deliver the best product for their name. You're generally speaking with a founder, or you're speaking with a director, you're speaking with someone who has full passion in the business. They're not just there to knock off on a Friday and get their paycheck. And when it comes to development, it is so important you've got someone that genuinely is thinking about your product like you are. We have a great team we've worked with this whole time, and they will like push back on me and be like, no, have you thought about this? And you go, oh, because he's like, we did that for a client 6 years ago. They found this. And to have that data is invaluable, but it's the speed they move at. I can call them at 11 p.m. at night. We'll be up sometimes at 1 a.m. doing stuff, and they're just dedicated. You need that. You need that speed, because if it's moving too slow, it's costing too much money.
Business owners, if you're stuck using one platform for every project, you're probably stuck in a growth bottleneck. More clients means more hires, which just adds noise and cuts into profits. To break the loop, you need flexible tools that don't stretch your resources. Wix Studio is a smart addition to your business toolkit. Intuitive by design, your team can quickly master the platform and focus on the work that matters the most. Then keep up the momentum with a built-in management tool, a unified dashboard, reusable assets, and a Figma plugin that turns static design into launch-ready websites. With robust native business solutions like bookings, e-commerce, and events, you can take any project at any scale without the added cost of third-party plugins. Plus, Wix Studio is a low-maintenance platform, meaning you can redirect the client budget towards real growth initiatives. Think more value for clients, steady income streams, and stronger relationships. To get started, simply go to wix.com/studio.
So by hiring a big firm that have a big name, they might be like, we've done 100 apps like this before. Yeah. You're less of a priority because you're one of many.
Yeah.
Whereas a small outfit with 6 less people, you're saying that your priority because you meet the founder's super invested in making sure your project succeeds, because they probably don't have 100 clients, they've got 4, and they want to keep you on the Rolodex, and they want to impress you, and they want to build a portfolio. So they're incentivized and invested beyond the project.
Spot on. And start with your network. Like, reach out to people you know. Reach out to people that you know that might know someone else that has done an app before, and just have a meeting with them. You'll find, like, people like yourself, people like me. I'll meet with randoms if someone's like, hey, can you meet with a mate of mine? Can you meet with a contact of mine? They're thinking about starting this and give them a hand. 100% I'll take time out of my day. It's already hard enough. Like, I don't want other people to suffer. I want everyone to succeed. So I think start by trying to get some info on, is there anyone that could give you a referral? I think referral base is going to save you a bucket load of cash.
Right.
Because you know they're already delivering something great. That's, if I started again, I would do the exact same thing.
And would you say it's unfair to expect that a team would develop the app, give it to you, and it works flawlessly?
No, yeah. Like, no, there will be problems. There will 100% be problems. And
it's not maybe that agency's fault. It's just like, you got to go test the market, right?
100%. And there'll be so many things that we as people, we expect someone might know. But again, what business are you creating? What app are you building? Like, I can't ever expect someone out there is going to know how to code and how to build MyDriveHero from the ground up. No one's done it before. So they're learning just as much as we are. But if you're coming up with something brand new, like our automated recording that was first of its kind, full patience. Like, you need to have patience with your team. Just like building any team. If you're jumping down their throat and getting angry at them, well, they're not going to want to work. They're not going to want to work with you. So I think from that regard it depends on the complexity of your app. It depends on the complexity of your project or your revenue stream or the new addition to the app. If it's a first time doing something, be prepared to spend a bucket load, be prepared to waste a lot of time and money, but trust yourself that you are making the right call. Because if me, Josh and Rick didn't, we wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Yeah. Would you say that failure is a component of this as well, and not looking at it as defeat, but looking at it as, okay, that didn't work. The market did not respond to that.
Yeah.
We need to pivot quickly. We need to take that feature back out. Recently, I saw a quote from Elon Musk where someone was asking him about SpaceX. He said, if you're not adding things back in, you're not testing enough.
Yeah.
So do you guys then look at building an app like, we're going to take this back out? You know, is it back to the Buddhism thing where it's like, this needs to grow, this is in maintenance mode, this needs to be destroyed?
Yeah, we're at that point now. So if you think about it, we've gone June, come into July, we've essentially almost done a full reset. We've essentially almost gone MyDriveHero 1 and 2, practically stripped, and brand new automatic recording, brand new UI, brand new UX, cache, automation.
Was there fear around this?
Yeah. Oh my God. Like, if anyone says that they weren't worried or they weren't thinking about it every night, they're absolutely lying through their teeth. We came up with the banking model. So you'll see it in the app, right? There is the banking model, which essentially packages up your trip. It has a nice gold ring around it. It's a nice little gold ring going around it. Click bank trip. That's then when we serve you ads, when our advertisers can get in front of our users at a very engaged time. And then bang, once you go through those ads, if you're a free user, if you're a premium user, you go straight through, you get to see great. All your data, your safety score, where your errors were, how much money you unlocked, all of that jazz. That banking was brand new, and like, I'd never seen it done before. It was just something we came up with on a whiteboard session, and it was like, if no one clicks that button, no one sees ads, no one has any reason to subscribe to premium because they don't want ads. Like, that button was, I think, a lot more crucial than anyone realized. And we were pulling the data last month, and we had over 2 million banks for the month. And to go, like, me and Josh, we were together. I went up to Queensland to see the boys, and we were just like, thinking in July we had like maybe 100 or 200 banks for the month.
Yeah.
And to have 2 million 6 months later for 1 month, it was like, the button worked.
Yeah.
Like, we backed ourselves, and we trusted the process, and we...
Champagne moment.
It was like, it went exactly to plan, if not much more than we anticipated. And
you can't predict this stuff,
you
because
can't.
it sounds like developing an app is like champagne one moment, and razor blades next.
Time.
And being okay with both sides of this. So being okay with the failure piece, investing a substantial amount of time and money. What about when it comes to customer experience? Like, take me into the experiential piece. Like, how do you make sure the app is experience centric, not just function to serve the purpose of the business?
Yeah, wow, that's a great question. Look, we've utilized a lot of surveys up until this point, but you get everything you need online. People are fucking vocal. They will say everything about the business on all the platforms. Go through and read every single review. I do.
Are these Google reviews or emails?
App Store reviews.
App Store reviews,
Yeah.
okay.
So if you go through App Store, you go through Google, you will get people will go there and leave a review when they're just in the spare of the moment, angry, and it's not truthful, right? We got plenty of reviews that are all lies, but if you go through and sift through those reviews, you will get key bits of info about your business, because you'll go, oh, there's another one. That was a big, again, the leaderboard. When we brought the leaderboard out, we thought it was going to be so good. We will bring it back.
You go through the insights. Everyone hates the leaderboard.
Yeah, and like it takes a bit to trawl through criticism. Feature we brought out and removed. We brought out in August. On the map, it showed people where they were speeding, but we also told them how long they were speeding for. For some reason, people just disagreed with it. It was just like this crazy. It wasn't for 8 seconds. It would have been way less than that. Like, I was like, well, that's beside the point. Like, it was. We recorded it, but it was creating all this friction, and we went, why don't we just take the seconds out and we just put the speed? Just you were doing 67 in a 60.
Right.
You were doing 70 in a 60, so on and so forth.
So it's almost like they're getting too much data.
Yeah, and that we took it. We literally, I think 4 days later, after we had this just huge influx of support tickets coming through the app and reviews on.
It wasn't 6 seconds, it was 3.
Well, it wouldn't be that long. Like, that's
How dare you say that?
Yeah.
I have my baby in the back. He's my 2-year-old son. He would never let me do this.
Exactly. Like, you actually are getting reviews like that. So we just said, okay, cool. Even though we know they're most likely incorrect, this isn't great. This is creating friction.
Yeah.
We removed the seconds out of it. Crickets. Like, just nothing.
Wow.
Just didn't hear anything more about it.
You almost can't say what the market should or shouldn't do.
Yeah.
It just is.
Yeah.
And how do we respond?
Yeah. We get a lot of support tickets. So what we try and do is
Explain a support ticket.
So when you go on the app, you do a trip. The end on that trip summary page, it shows you how much cash you earned, how much potential you could have got, the map, the safety score, and at the bottom it's like
a bit of a report card for your trip.
Yeah, and then at the bottom it will just be like, don't agree, click here and reach out to this. Okay. Or do you want to reach out about something? We have some pre-filled options, whether it was the speed.
Kind of like Uber, when it's like, did you get your meal? Yep. Was it on time? Was it fast? Give us some feedback.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially we are trying to get the feedback off them through a channel that we can reach out to them much more efficiently. When someone goes on to Google Play Store as Big Viking 44 and like these random gaming names, and that might be their Game Center name or whatever it is, and they just leave a review, well, it's so hard to reach out to them.
Yeah.
Like, we got to send a developer response. And
so you wanted to build an in-app function that kind of allowed you to go, okay, it was this user. For some reason, people in Geelong complain a lot, whatever it is. And you can get key insights or key metrics around regions, age bracket.
Yep.
Like what are the insights you're looking for? Like, how much of it is useless information? What's useful?
Yeah, like that, again, never ending question with app data. I think when you build an app, one thing you'll learn is how much data you have, and there is more than what you think you're going to have. Like, everything from where are people speeding, what are the biggest problem areas. I could go to every council in Australia right now and tell them every speed bump that's incorrect on every road. Like, I can tell them this is where they speed, it's not here, move it to here.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of data that you have to be able to use for good, and also time in app. When we had MyDriveHero 2, like, we had a dwell rate in the app of less than 20 seconds a day. We now have over 5.5 minutes. It's like 3 times the global average, the dwell time on average of people in the app.
Explain what that means.
Essentially, people in the app for a day. So like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, 25 hours or 24 hours for some people, unfortunately. Dwell rate is that time that they're spending in the app. So for us as an advertising business, we have
like a quarter of a minute to 5 minutes. It's pretty substantial.
Yeah, we have a lot of people in there, and the sticking rate too. So to be really transparent, I don't think I've really told many people this. With MyDriveHero 2, we dropped as low as a 23 or 24% sticking rate. So like people would come into the app and within 30 days would essentially bang. Done with
So
it.
is the metric a month, and then it's like how many of them stick around?
Yeah.
And it was about 24%.
Globally, it's 59% of utility apps will get deleted in the first 30 days. We dropped as low as like 74%, 76% of people just after 30 days went bang. Don't want it. We only had about a 24% sticking rate. People stayed. Currently, MyDriveHero 3 is 96.7.
What? Yeah. What do you think was the key difference to make it so that the app was that sticky?
Cache and automation. No, cache and automation. There's nothing else to it. Like, okay, simplified. It looks cooler. It's a bit slicker. Like all of that's great, but cache, automation. People need cache. We'll give it to you. Automation, you don't have to do anything. So like, I don't know if you remember the 2 version. You get in the car, let's say you put the kids in, you go into school, you got to press start. Okay, it's a 2K trip, I can't be bothered. Like I won't press start this one, I won't bother. So you're leaving all those rewards on the table, but you don't know they're there. Right now, every trip gets recorded automatically. So even if someone hasn't come back into the app, whenever they're free, so we just say to people, when you're having a coffee, you're sitting watching the telly, when you would maybe normally trawl TikTok or Instagram or whatever social platform, LinkedIn, bank trips. Just go in and bank your trips. Get in there, unlock your cash.
Oh, so you're giving them like this after effect dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Like, I had 19 car trips this week. It's even interesting to just know what your data was that week. How many kilometers did I drive? How far did I drive? And you're going in there and getting in that ding, 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 ding. Okay.
Yeah, and so like they can go in and bank whenever they want. And
how does it know that they're driving though? How do you know they're not in the passenger seat or they're actually driving?
Great question. I love this one. So we deliberated about this a lot, and people will go to me, "Oh, well, what happens if I'm a passenger and then I'm going to get paid as well?" And I have a really great story on this. If you're keeping that driver safer by you worrying about your score as well, guess what? We're getting to the goal. Like that is a win. Okay, the company pays 2 times on that trip, but rather than 2 people dying on that trip. So we deliberated this a lot. Do we invest a bucket-load of money into detecting a double trip and then who's who? Someone said to me, "Oh, can you put a button in there that just says I'm passenger?" And I said, "What?" And the people that want to text and drive just go, "Hey, I'm a passenger today, text and drive."
I see.
You know, people will cheat the rules when the rules are put there to be able to be cheated, and I didn't want that. So I had a chat with a mother recently, and she was like, "Oh, I think it's a really good idea that we all get paid on a drive." And I was like, "Oh, why'd you say that?" She's like, "Well, I've got 2 daughters." And she's like, "What we all do now is we actually all put our phones away because we know if one of us are texting and the car's moving, like that person's going to lose money on their phone. Even though they're not a driver, we obviously, we're not going to be able to detect where you're sitting in the car. You know, there's not that level of personal data that would be concerning from Apple if they were getting that." She goes, "So what we do now is all 4 of us are just off our phones. We're chatting as a family. We're making sure the driver, whether it's me or my hubby, are driving. We're making sure the driver's staying really focused because we all want 100 out of 100. And I went like, what a story that is.
That's
like,
amazing, yeah.
That's epic. You've got a family like bond growing. You've got rapport building. You've got probably more fun in the car, less chance that the driver nods off, you know, it's a long trip and they're having a holiday because they're all caring about their money.
They're serving the mission even if they're not necessarily doing the predominant function, which is I'm driving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like that's the goal. The goal is death toll down. And if that means, all right, there's a few extra dollars going out of the business for that, guess what? It's a business. You figure out how to plug that hole and you figure out how to make that back to keep the mission alive.
Interesting. I would even say like when a weakness is exposed like that in a business, lean into it. So I don't know if you ever saw that campaign from Rolex where they were taking photos of fake Rolexes and they put them on billboards and they said even the fake gives you the feeling. You know, so like how can you so how can you like leverage that
so good.
as a part of the campaign? Because that story in and of itself is really funny. Not that you want to encourage everyone in your fan base to do this, but like even as a metric perspective, like I can imagine in the boardroom trying to pitch partnerships, it inflates the fact that the app's being used more. It has more time invested. So like it's a win for you because you get more data to say more hours used in the app.
Well, for sure. And like at the end of the day, as an advertising business, like it's not false. You've now got 4 people who need to bank those trips. Those 4 people are watching ads, getting served ads by advertisers. So like everyone's winning. They're getting paid, drivers safe, they're safe, advertisers are happy, we're happy. Like it's a win-win-win-win-win.
So when you're looking at these insights, these criticisms, these tickets, people are complaining, they're emailing you, they're going full black belt Karen on you, and they're complaining about what you guys suck at and how dare a corporation, take money from them for speeding for 3 seconds. So when you're looking at all this data, how do you calculate, okay, let's prioritize these criticisms. Like how do you make sure you're not getting distracted with the wrong criticisms?
Yeah, I'd love to have an answer for you on this. And I think people watching this right now need to realize there's not a recipe to everything. like when you're building this business, it's moving so quick that it's like I might be in between doing things and I see 4 bits of feedback come through and I remember like, oh, I've seen that 4 times in the last couple of days and I'll, Josh, what's going on with this? It's not like, at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. it's find problems with this part of the app.
Yeah, it's not like look at 40, calculate the top 5. There's no recipe.
No, and like business people on potties and business things will say that there's all these answers to things and it's structured this way. It's not. That's a load of bullshit. Like a lot of it, you are moving at the speed of fucking light and you are figuring these things out as you go and you're grabbing bits of info and things are sticking. And now it's like, I'm fortunate enough to be able to start to step out the business a bit where I can look at more of it on the field. But I have Josh where I'll be like, hey, I've noticed this problem. What's happening with it? And then Josh is usually on top of the support team because we've just upgraded our support team and upgrading it further. And he'll just be like, yep, this happened, already on it. We're putting this build in. Like he'll already be on top of it.
It sounds like you're quite gut led. So then
big time, always have been.
So then how do you define being gut led? Because a lot of people have different interpretations of what their gut is. I tend to have a belief that the gut is a collection of subconscious experiences where you're like, I've seen this before, red flag, or I've seen this before, I need to prioritize this. Or how do you gauge whether your gut is actually right or not?
The gut will tell me if it's right or not. But I think having partners is a really big one. Like
vetting out your ideas. You're like, hey guys, I got a hunch. What do you think? They're like, I had the same hunch.
Spot on.
Yeah.
So we'll go, like if it's a big gut instinct, change of a business, it's like
everyone's guts are rumbling.
Josh, whiteboard session. Let's go. Let's put this down. Does it make sense? Yeah, it actually does. Like, I think diving into the gut thing is so complex because I would love to know, like deep down, like truly where do those answers come from?
I think it isn't a collection of experiences. It's probably a collection of like things that have gone well and things that have gone poorly. Because I imagine when you jump into a new industry, your gut read's probably terrible, right? You might not have enough data points for your gut to be right or wrong. You might be a good gauge of like, hey, this guy's a bit of a snake. I don't want to spend time with them. Yeah. Versus like, my gut is apps are easy to build. It's like, well, actually, no, that's an incorrect gut check.
Yeah. I don't think you read that deep. They go like whole business idea out of the blue. But hey, like,
it's happened.
You could say to a certain degree, Rick, is the founder of MyDriveHero.
That's true.
Early on, he, outside of being passionate on wanting to make a change, there was so many false starts and trials and tribulations where he still was like, nah, this is right. And he's never broken that. Like you've always seen he's backed himself that it will happen. And then obviously we all met and we've then turned it into reality. And he's like, something was pushing me there. Was it gut? Was it something else? But
and for the listeners, if you're interested in, I guess, hearing more about Rick's story, we'll put the link to that episode where you guys went deep into his story. Yeah. And for anyone that wants context, go check out that episode. Apologies for the background. I want to come back to the app before we go too deep into more of the, I guess I guess, the story part of the brand, which I think we've covered well, which is what value do you think apps now serve in the marketplace? If we're looking at the current climate, do you think that the chances of an app succeeding are decreasing?
Yeah, because it's flooded, but it's convenience. I think that is everything right now, is it convenience, outside of obviously your TikToks and stuff. But
so you have media, you have entertainment.
I just feel like if your app isn't making someone's life more convenient right now, Uber Eats, like food delivered to me, going great, like I don't have to move.
Do you forecast any challenges coming up for apps and the near future with, if you look at the zeitgeist of technology, everyone's talking about artificial intelligence and AGI, artificial general intelligence, and then you see self-driving cars, and technology is just accelerating at lightning speed at this point. Do you guys have conversations around, like, we predict these to be the biggest challenges for our business in the next 5 to 10 years?
Not that advanced, only because a lot of our demographic, a lot of the MyDriveHero community are everyday people, might be paycheck to paycheck, looking for that extra money. So when we start to talk about like driverless cars and stuff, they're pretty expensive. And again, if we have a driverless car, you can still have MyDriveHero. Like, it's still going to work.
Serves a mission, right? Safer roads.
It's still going to work. But no, I don't think I'm worried about any of that. Everything we do to minimize our risk is around the rising cost of living. So for us, it's like we dropped our premium from $14.99 a month and $99 a year all the way down to $3.33 for the annual, so it was $39.95, and we did $4.99 for the monthly for our first 6 months. We recently just upped it to $7.99 and $59.90, which brought that back to $4.99. And it was, again, like, that is so affordable because we want people to have the option if they want the less friction and they have the opportunity to make that back. Great, big win. But I'm building this business right now to go, how can I monetize this without really needing the everyday individual? Because you're starting to see it everywhere. Even like, I play a lot of golf. There's a couple of golf courses near me that were just once in pristine condition, and you can get on member, guest. It's dropped, and apparently their memberships dropped by like 50%.
Yeah.
So even like people that were spending $2,500 on a golf membership, they're looking at their finances now going, maybe I can't afford that golf membership anymore. So if you continue looking at like, what are people cutting out as well? Like, I need to think about that in my business. If we're too expensive, well, no one's going to subscribe, which doesn't help grow, which doesn't help the mission. So I think the biggest, not fear, but problem, the biggest thing I'm constantly always looking at is that rising cost of living. How much spare money do people actually have? Is it affordable? Otherwise...
Yeah, there's some stats that came out recently, and these are quite concerning. And it was like, the 60s and 70s were an era where, I think someone's basic income from like a good job, about 30% of that income would go toward essentials.
Yep.
Then they would spend another, 30, 40% on like wants, and then they would squirrel away the rest and invest it. If they were the type to do that, or just spend it all on boats and cool holidays and stuff. Whereas right now, people are spending about 70 to 76% of their income on essentials, and which is, you're seeing this, it's eroding people going on holidays.
Yep.
It's eroding people, buying those extra treats, going to the movies, subscribing to these extra subscription platforms. Like, most people I know have 1 or 2 subscriptions. Yep. They don't have subscriptions to every platform. They're like, I've watched everything on Netflix. I'm going to unsubscribe, and I'm going to subscribe to Disney and watch some stuff over there and then come back to it. So like when we're seeing this shrinkage of like, spending in those categories, it then creates a demand for people to try to find, well, how do I maximize my essentials more? So would you say that there will be a rise potentially in apps as a category for more essential based stuff?
Potentially.
Because I'm seeing ones pop up like around like, get savings on your pet products. And it just seems like there's a bit of a trend around essential spending.
Well, like you think about Shopback. Have you used Shopback?
What's Shopback?
See, they're part of Shopback. Like, we looked at Shopback, how could we incorporate something similar? The reason why we didn't go down the route of copying Shopback or doing anything similar was the horse and the car scenario. So Shopback, if you're not using it, like, we have no affiliation to them, but I just think it's such an incredible business and incredible app. So anytime I book on booking.com, go traveling for work, need to stay in a hotel, whatever, on Shopback. So if I go to booking.com, I can either go to booking.com, the app, and just book my hotel, or I can go to Shopback and get either 5% or 10% back in cash just by using their plugin, because they have partnerships with them to drive more sales. So I go to Shopback, I click booking.com, it then tracks via an API, bang, brings up the booking.com app just the same way, says your transaction's about to be tracked. I go on, book my hotel, bang, and then within 120 days, that cash just comes into your wallet and you put it in your bank account.
Right. Okay. And obviously their system would be, hey, booking.com, we sent you a lead. So give us a little bit. Exactly. And they give it back to you.
Affiliate based stuff. But like those sorts of business models similar to us, we're super unique in our right. I think Shopback extremely unique. That Shopback will just continue to go from strength to strength in my opinion, because it's.
So you think that things that are convenient and things that because I guess if you look at Uber, we had a friend of mine on the podcast recently, and he was saying that, when you use an Uber, you have this flawless experience. You open the app, you tap where you want to go, you hit submit, the car comes, picks you up, get in the car, get out of the car. You don't have to do any transaction like you would with a taxi. The car drives off, you go into the restaurant. But you go into the restaurant, you got to sit there and wait, or you have to scan the QR code, and you have to, so it's just people are expecting a frictionless experience. So apps that can kind of sit in that convenience space or in the essential spending space might have an opportunity right now in today's climate. It's so important in business to pay attention to what I call the zeitgeist, like what's happening in the economy, what's happening in politics, what's happening with trends, where's people's attention going. And I think if you start to look at, what's the climate or the weather of the world of business, because politics affects business, love it or hate it. The economy and people's predicament affects, business. Like look at golf courses, dropping in subscriptions.
This year we are like really focusing, now that we've rounded out the model and the sticking rate, we know it's working. It's how much more can we
make it more addictive?
Because at the end of the day, if you're addicted to driving safer, that's an excellent addiction. We want
it's a great
everyone
justification.
That's
I love your framework because you're like, no matter what we do, it's all in a good cause to help lives.
It is for whatever reason you as a person are choosing to do it, but the outcome is safer roads. I'll get into some statistics about the increase on that, but I just want to get back. Cam said to me about a year ago, oh, you guys should get a widget, right? And Uber did it recently. Have
what
you
do you
seen? You seen that widget now on the, you get an Uber, you might be on your lock screen. You've got the little car and it is tracking your thing.
So it pops up on your
just lock screen, home screen,
lock screen,
any of them. And I think just that in itself might seem
shout out to Cam behind the scenes here.
Cam's ahead of the game. She must have spoke to someone at Uber. But that little widget there, I think to some people might seem quite insignificant, but I think that is so powerful. Like you can just go, I am halfway, my trip's halfway, I'm halfway there. I love it. I think it's just so.
And also prompts you to go in and get your dopamine hit from because I guess thinking about video games. I don't know if you've done much mobile gaming. I got stuck on Diablo Immortal for a long time. I spent too much money on that game. But I remember opening the app and then there's just red dots everywhere. And you're like, I got to kill the red dots. I got to redeem this, redeem that, do this thing, do the little thing over here. And you just get addicted to the red dots. And then I realized when I was playing Diablo Immortal, I was just addicted to dot chasing. Same thing with PUBG.
Dopamine dots.
Yeah, I was opening PUBG because me and my fiance, we especially when we're away, it's this cute thing that we do. We log on to our mobiles and we mobile game together and we shoot people and all the rest of it. But I just remember opening it up, and I think it's managed by Tencent Gaming, which is this Chinese app development company. We're really good at getting you addicted. Because you want to open the app, you get that little dopamine hit from all the redemptions. And then I was like, why does this one game have 84 redemption things? It's you go through this redemption thing and then behind that there's another redemption. And then you're like, is this just modern gambling, dude? Because I'm addicted. And then I had to uninstall these apps because I was like, I'm just addicted to dot chasing. I'm not actually playing these games anymore.
Timu, while we're on that.
Oh, don't get me started.
Talking about apps, talking about businesses, talking about convenience, talking about price. The games they have in there on you've unlocked these credits, click this.
I went
you've got
down
to
a
buy
rabbit
these
hole on
7
Temu,
things
dude.
to unlock this. And takes you on this journey.
Yeah.
Granted, that app to me feels like way too much going on sometimes.
Yeah, it's almost like at a point where you know they're doing it and you're like, I see what you're doing, but I'm going to go along for it. Because I remember Christo he gestured an insult towards me. He's like, dude, your accessory game kind of sucks. And I was like, oh, okay, like offense taken. So I remember just playing on this for a few months and I was like, I got to get some accessories and, get a cool watch or some rings or stuff. So I went on the Temu. I was like, let me check it out. I was like, oh, that's a cool ring, add to cart. And it's like, a little window pops up and it's like, spin the roulette wheel or whatever it is. I'm like, spin the wheel. It's like, you've earned $74. I'm like, wow, I just how many cool rings I can buy. I'm like, Chris, I'm going to have the best accessory game. Went down a rabbit hole and I added like, man, probably 40 rings to my cart. I'm like, it's only $80. So I went from a $5 spend to like an $80 spend, and then this bag of rings
got done.
shows up to my house, and Ellie's like, why do you have all these rings? I'm like, wow. Temu.
And the comment.
And she's like, low key, I went on there and bought way too many beauty products and we bonded. But dude, that platform is scary. Like my brain was just running on dopamine using that app.
I'm so glad I'm not in like an e-com game where I have any products that are on Temu. Because if you go and search it now on Google, it's just every ad's Temu for like the first 20 on that left and right slider.
Like I think if I open my phone now, I don't have it, but like every time I open my phone, Temu's there. It's like, hey.
It's unbelievable. Like
I've stayed away from it. I used it once. I bought 40 rings. I'm off it.
Yeah, it's scary. Like,
but what if you, okay, let's unpack this. Like if you were to say, okay, yeah, it's terrifying. Yeah, they're taking advantage of people. What can we learn from an app like Temu? Because obviously in the world where app development is kind of on the decline, these guys have come out of nowhere. They're going toe to toe with Amazon. They're purely engineered their platform on dopamine and adrenaline. What can we learn from that?
I don't know if it's app. I don't know if the story is in app as much as it is in marketing and being in front of everyone's face. Because like their app's okay. Like I don't find it visually that appealing. I think it's very it's almost like DOS in a way. Like I don't find it that slick. The gambling part of it's pretty smart. That whole gamification dopamine hit is. But it's the marketing. It's like they're everywhere. They're almost like you go into every other app and they're programmatic banners everywhere in every app. They're on every part of Google. Like what do you think of their slogan? I always think of you and I read
I don't know what their slogan
Shop
is.
like a billionaire.
Ooh.
I know. And it's so true.
That's so good.
Because like that was one of the first.
That's such a good.
The first time I read it, I said to myself, I wonder what Dane would think of that.
That's so good. I didn't know. I don't know how I missed it.
It's there.
I felt like a billionaire, man. When my rings showed up, I was like, damn, look at me. I'm rich. I only spent $80. Look at all these rings.
That's the thing. It's like people are like, they're fitting out the whole kitchens and they're getting all these things and they spend $150.
Like totally leaning into like the fact that like we know we're an addictive platform. This is basically a casino.
It is.
And they're just leaning into it.
It is.
Yeah. Well, dude, so when it comes to like what you're developing here with the apps, it sounds like you're cooking something up in the background there is it around the essential convenience space? Can you tell me that much?
It's not so, well, yes, everything we do now filters down into that. But it's about how we can bring families, L platers, P platers, all of their safety.
Interesting.
Back through.
I'm trying to reverse engineer what you're creating
in a very
here.
gamified way that again leads to more cash, more earnings.
Interesting. I'm excited for you, man.
Yeah,
that's pumped. Okay, so with all of the stuff that you're developing with these apps and these, these epic missions you're on to increase road safety and save lives, how do you want to be remembered?
I said it before. The most loyal person. When I'm done, I just wanted to be known as the most loyal person.
Just I can see your tombstone. Most
loyal
person.
Shop like a billionaire.
Just a true legend and a good friend.
I've said that from the day almost the day I was born. I remember saying that to people as a kid, as a teenager. It's just all I've ever cared about. And
that's what we always loved about you guys is like whenever we started working together was like, man, these guys genuinely want to help people.
Yeah.
It's just genuine.
Relentlessly loyal is something I say. You'll see it on my Cub profile. Me, Rick and Josh, we say it a lot. Yeah. Relentlessly everything. So it's relentlessly respectful, relentlessly loyal. And being relentless is also great in many other forms. But relentlessly loyal is it. Like never unwavered, no amount of money no amount of anything could stop me from being loyal.
I love that. Goosebumps. What's a quote or a mantra that you've carried with you on this entire journey that you wished everyone listening to this would immediately implement?
Wow. A quote or a mantra. I hate to repeat because I've already said it half an hour ago, but time is your biggest adversary. Vu Tran Go One. Like, it's so cliche, and I know it sounds, but that has played on my mind so much. And close behind is going to be you with the founders getting their own way.
Well, what's your interpretation of that? Like, unpack that a little further. Yeah. How do you onboard that?
If we go, because we've spoken about the time piece a lot, let's go founders get in their own way. When you're building something, when you spend a significant amount of money on something, when you were the one who convinced investors, shareholders, business partners that it was the right thing, to turn around and say it was wrong takes a shit ton of spine. Like, it's hard. It's a lot harder than people think. You know, there's money, people's money's been sunk into that, to make that mistake and to turn around and go, I may have got in my own way there. I was just still going down this path instead of going, hey, there might have been a whole new road we didn't even think to go down, mind the pun. To be able to stop, get out of body, look in, let the world turn once. That's founders getting in their own way, getting out of their own way.
Yeah, you would think that as a founder that you need to be this bulletproof, perfect, character that's got it all together.
Yeah.
And I tend to find that the founders that have the ability to stop and go, I'm out of my depth here.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring someone else in. I'm going to consult. I'm going to find others that can contribute to my problem.
Yeah.
Rather than being stubborn that I can figure it out myself. Yeah. The most successful founders I've met tend to be the most collaborative and the most aware that they themselves cannot solve the issue.
Yep.
And they might even have a hunch, but they're like, let me bring some people in that are really good at this to see what the experts think.
For sure. And there's also a timing piece behind that. Like, it'd be really nice to always be able to do that. But when you're really early on in your project and in your business, sometimes you don't have the money, the resources to be able to do that. So there's this element of, I have a really good friend who's about to buy a business, and he is an absolute killer. He's a gun, but he doesn't fully know it yet. And he always thinks there's someone out there that has the answer. And I always say to him, I don't think you realize, but you have it. You just need to trust that voice and not want to hear it from someone else. But what you're saying is 100% right. Back end of last year, we got to the point with MyDriveHero where I said to Josh, we need to join Cub. Obviously, all members of Cub. Because it's time to get around people who are 10 years ahead of where we are now. It's almost like we were in our pond. We became the big fish in our pond. Let's go be the small fish in a way bigger pond. Let's get people around us who can already see the problems, because up until this point we paid for problems. Now I want to pay for people, not problems. So that's the theme of this year is, like you said, transparency. I'm going full transparent. There's no corporate sheath here. I'll tell anyone anything about how hard this journey is, and I won't be afraid to do it, and to bring people onto the business and essentially give away portions of this business to the right people to ensure we go to that next level and beyond.
Yeah, it's almost like you guys were like, well, we'd rather own a smaller slice on a much bigger pizza.
Oh, way better.
By partnering with others. And I've been a member of Cub as well. And, we don't get paid for plugging Cub, but they're great. Yeah. It's a great business network here in Australia. But what happens, I think, when you spend time with people that are much further on their journey than you start to realize that they've figured out a few tricks or tropes or ways of thinking that you're not yet adopting. And one which I picked up on recently was you should track the financials of everything. What's the profitability of each product in each category that we have in our business? Like, what's the profitability of a logo and a website and a brand and a naming system or whatever we're building? And up until recently, I was like, well, we know we're profitable. There's margins, there's money at the end of the month. Cool. Like, who cares that much? But when we start to scrutinize each one, it's like, hey, can we actually tweak this up a little bit? Can we make more profit margin here? And I've always had this trope where I'm like, I don't want to think about profit and be that capitalist guy that's constantly stressing about money. But when you start to apply some kind of math and some kind of metric to it, you can identify problems in your business way earlier.
Yeah.
And you can do a much better job at making everyone's life easier.
Yeah, for sure. And you just got a CFO recently mentioned. I asked an advisor this question. I said, when you got a CFO, did you realize how shit you were at tracking the finances, or, you know, what did you learn? And he's like, good question. It wasn't that I realized I was shit. I realized how slow I was.
Oh.
So he's like, what I would take me 3 days to pump out to get data on my business to make a decision or think of a new idea, so my CFO could do in 3 hours.
So he's collapsing timeframes. So rather than stressing about a problem for too long,
Exactly.
it's like we solved it in a few hours, move on, next problem.
Might take 3 weeks for him to do it on his own, but instead he's invested the money into that CFO that's pumping that out in 3 days.
Yeah, because if you can collapse your timelines around a problem, then you can solve them way faster and get it way ahead of them. Like when we hired a CFO, he collapsed a few issues that we had. And I was like, right, well, I just need to get out there and start making more sales like immediately.
Yeah.
And then, you know, rather than spending 6 weeks to come to that conclusion, he did it in a half a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. But people watching, there is a time when you can do that. You don't start a business and get to have that overhead just sitting every month coming off if you don't have the problems to solve.
Well, you got to find that sweet spot. You don't want to over-engineer
100%.
and move so slow that nothing happens. You don't want to under-engineer, be so naive that you're running into too many problems. Dude, when you wake up in the morning, what gets you fired up?
Caffeine. No.
Do you have something that's a bit of a trick that gets you going?
I'll always pretty much put music on in the first 20 minutes. And I'll pretty much have music on most of my time. Do you have a go-to? Meetings. No, I'll change up. My music goes through everything from R&B to techno to screamo to like, doesn't change, but music, I love music more than anything, and nothing gets me in the zone.
Elevates your mood, gets your blood flowing. I'll just have put my AirPods in usually within the first 20 minutes. Yeah.
Bang, straight into it.
I do something similar and I've been listening to a lot of like retro house music.
Love it.
Yeah, it's been good fun.
The whole morning routine thing, I'm not one of those people that is I hate mornings more than anything. I'm a night owl. As the day goes on, my energy is just building like a big Boeing 747. Like I am soaring. Gym every 5 o'clock in the afternoon gym, and I'm like, I'm starting to really take off now.
Into the sunset.
Let's go. It's 7, 8, 9, 10 p.m., 11. I'm like, I'm hitting my straps now. Here we go. I'm like a Bezos. I'm a slow starter in the morning.
Same.
Never liked it. Never had my whole. Just even my mum said since I was born, just super slow in the morning.
Just a slow boot up.
I watch a heap of Matthew Walker on like Huberman podcast, and he does all the sleep studies, and the amount of stuff you learn about your circadian rhythm and how like it's set for you. So like if your circadian rhythm is essentially your body's meant to be going to bed at 1, and then you try going to bed at like 9 o'clock at night, and your body's better at getting up at 9, but you're trying to get up at 6 in the morning, you're going to feel pretty crap. And it's kind of already set for you by the podcasts I've listened to. I've just figured out not to fight it these days. So I'll pretty much go to bed most nights around 1:30 in the morning, and my body will just wake up pretty much roughly the same time every day at about 8:35, between 8:35 and 9.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm like, I can just feel everything's like perfect. If I go to bed a bit later, if I try and go to bed early, it doesn't work. I'll just lay there. But it works good in this industry, in the tech world. You've got developers overseas, you've got people overseas working, and it's like,
you take advantage of it.
Yeah, take advantage of it.
And last thing is, what's a door right now in the world of business that you're trying to kick in to take your business to the next level?
Advisory board, like building a really good advisory board of absolute killers with experience that share the same values that I could comfortably just have a beer with and chat about life. Same me, Rick and Josh, 3 things we said. No interest having a board of people that we wouldn't get along with day-to-day world. We don't want those people around our business. So for me, that's a whole new world, like bringing on people of that experience to have a board and have proper board meetings. Like that's brand new.
Yeah, it's a very different world and one I've looked at recently for a few of our clients, and you can get it wrong pretty easily.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm just going through my black book in my head. There's a few introductions I could probably make for you guys.
Oh, cool. Appreciate that. That'd be great. A statistic I did want to talk about, we haven't spoken about.
Yeah, share a couple of stats before we close, man.
Yeah. So we essentially at the moment are in what we call tier 3 of our safety scoring. Essentially how much leniency we're giving to certain levers on your speeding. Do we give people a little bit of time to notice their problem and back off and come back down? Obviously, we've started at tier 1 and we're going up to tier 2. So it gets a little bit harder and harder as the time goes to the point there's no leniency. But the leniency is also to counteract any sort of technological error that's in place. Right now, we're in our tier 2. It's pretty strict. From June, when we were at points at, about 32% of people would score a 100% safety score. As of last week, 78% of people are scoring a 100% safety score. In 6 months, we have over doubled people's safe driving, like 100%. It's not someone progressing from a 20 to a 25, not someone progressing from a 30
That's
to a
crazy.
35. Now, granted, their overall scores would be progressive.
If you're looking at the graph, that's like this.
When we're looking at again, this year I am going to bring a data scientist on board to really look at how many accidents are we truly avoiding in MyDriveHero. Because I think when we met last time, we were doing 1 million Ks a month. We're doing 4.5 million a week.
Well, how do you roughly doing the math on that? Like, obviously there's discrepancy and a bit of a warning label here. Like, this isn't perfectly accurate, but how do you guys generally gauge the metric? Like 1 million miles equals what?
We've never, in regards to what are you asking?
So like, how do you calculate like the amount of potential accidents through kilometers?
We haven't yet. So we've never really like sat there and gone, MyDriveHero has saved 100 accidents.
You can guess, right?
You can. It's not been something yet we've really, again, invested money into, because I've always said I don't want to be a false label company.
No.
I've seen companies in the States that have similar driver safety stuff, nowhere near to the level of ours, and they will like make these claims that they've saved 25 lives. And I'm like, unless it's 100% accurate, I'm not going to go and advertise it. We're not that business. But that statistic there is the one that when you say, how do you get up in the morning and are you pumped? When you look at that and you go, how many people did we save? And again, we're at now 4 million Ks, 4.5 million Ks a week. And we're at 2 million about 45 days ago, we're at 2 million Ks a week. We'll probably be at 10 million Ks a week in the next 60 days, less, probably 40 at this rate. When you take that safety score increase, and again, we're going to make it a little bit tighter so that way people can keep striving to be safer to the point there's not one bit of buffer. Right now, to see that jump to 77% of our community are hitting hundreds, like that's.
Is that because of the direct correlation to the wallet?
It is. It's cash.
This is beautiful, man, because you're giving people money, they're driving safer, and that's 4.5 million kilometers of people being a bit more conscious, even if it's half as much, more conscious about, am I driving the speed limit?
Yep.
Am I taking corners carefully?
Yep.
Who's in the car with me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Am I returning home to my loved ones?
Yeah.
Am I not rushing?
And whether that's driven by money or otherwise,
Yep.
the fact is people are driving safer.
Yep. That's all we care about, and it's working. And it's going to continue to work. I'm looking forward to being back on it here again in 18 months' time and having an actual data set of how many lives we saved. I want to be able to send stuff out to people to go, well done, you were one of the users that saved 1 life this year, or 0.1 of a life. Like when you donate blood, you get that. I want to have that metric going out to people. I want people to get the real life. Like YouTube, you get 1 million subscribers. MyDriveHero, you get how many lives saved, like something that you can put up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, sending plaques out to your 2 truck drivers.
How cool would that be?
That'd be cool, man.
That's sick.
I want to see that.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, Blake, thank you so much. Big love from me and the team. Really proud of what you're doing out there. And you're making road safer for people, man. Something to be proud of.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yo, my name's DAIN Walker and I am disgustingly obsessed with branding. I had to figure out a way to do branding every single day. So I branded myself. Then I started my agency, RIVYL. And hired a team of branding mavericks hell-bent on creating brands so good that they'll make your competition shit their pants. So here's the thing, you want your brand to go viral and RIVYL makes brands go viral. That's why we're offering you a free 30-minute branding session to get an expert's opinion. If you don't believe me, the proof is in the pudding. Here's what clients have to say about RIVYL.
RIVYL is trusted by brands like Nutrition Warehouse, Light My Bricks, and Vumi.
So if you want to absolutely smelt the competition and make your brand go viral, hit the link below and book in your free 30-minute branding session.